So we're getting closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs, which, best time of the year, favorite time of the year. One of the my favorite time of the year is when it comes time for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Well, what we're also getting to now is, and it seems to be an annual thing, of we need to change back to the old format because people they're sick and tired of seeing the same teams match up every year, even though one of the main reasons why we have the current format the way it is because the networks want to know what each round is going to be so they can advertise it correctly. You didn't get that in the 1 versus 8 format, but so everybody's complaining again. We need to go back to 1 versus 8. Well, now, mind you, these matchups here, because I have laid out what the differences would be, and I'm trying to get that light off the. That's pretty good. So I'm trying to point out here. Here's what would be the matchups. Now these are going to change multiple times. This is being done on March 5th of 2025. So it will not shock me if I end up having to do a couple more of these different videos before getting to the end here. But as of March 5th, these are the matchups. In the current setup, the current wildcard setup, you would have the Winnipeg Jets. You would have them playing the Calgary Flames as the number one team in the conference right now, in the Western Conference, is Winnipeg. They would play the second wild card, which would be the Calgary Flames. The Central Division, because this basically would be the Central Division matchups, you would have the Dallas Stars playing the Minnesota Wild. That's the 2-3 matchup in the Central. So then we go to the Pacific Division. Now, oddly enough, because the interesting thing with these wild cards set up, with the way the wild cards are, you do get teams that flip divisions. Because the Calgary Flames are normally a Pacific Division team, and the Colorado Avalanche are a Central Division team. But being right now, Calgary is the number 2 wild card, and Colorado is the number 1 wild card, you have them flipping divisions. Mainly because of that fact that they are, of their positions. That's where they are in points. Calgary has 74 points as the number 1 wild card. Calgary right now has 67 as the number 2. So they end up switching divisions. So Calgary is in the Central Division playoffs while Colorado is in the Pacific Division playoffs. So as the number 1 wild card, Colorado would play Vegas in the first round. Now that would be a fun matchup, wouldn't it? And then, of course, you get one of the reasons why people are saying, well, we get the same matchups every year. Yeah, you would be in the Pacific Division again. The 2 versus 3 matchup would be Edmonton and Los Angeles. So you would get that same. This would be the third year in a row. I think that you would get that matchup, something like that. But if we did the 1 versus 8, which is on this side here, you still get the same matchup. Oops. You still get the exact same matchup in the 1 versus 8 in Winnipeg against Calgary. Now, you would get a different matchup if it were 2 versus 7, because 2 versus 7, you would have Vegas playing Los Angeles. That's the 2 versus 7 matchup. You would have Dallas playing Colorado. So that's a different matchup. And you would have Minnesota playing Edmonton. That's a different matchup. So you would have 3 different matchups in the Western Conference as of March 5th, 2025, as you would in the current setup. So you would have 3 different matchups there. So, that's, it's definitely interesting. It can, and people can go and make their point of see why we need 1 versus 8. So we go back over here to the Eastern Conference. Boy, I'm just all tongue tied here today. Boy, I totally mixed that. I totally mixed that up on the Eastern side here. I literally had matchups wrong, and had them in the wrong position. So I had to put them in the right setup here. So in the current setup in the Eastern Conference, current wildcard setup, you would have the Washington Capitals playing the New York Rangers. That's of course the Capitals. They have the best record right now in the Eastern Conference. Matter of fact, so they would play the New York Rangers. Be a rematch of last year's first divisional Metro Division semifinal. So they would play each other. And you would have then the 2 versus 3 matchup in the Metro. You would have Carolina and New Jersey. That's the 2-3 matchup. Then we go to the Atlantic, and this is the one that I think is going to change multiple times, because you have 3 teams here in the Atlantic Division that are, I mean, just, it's insane how close they are. But as of March 5th today, on March 5th, Toronto is currently leading that division. Now, Toronto is only leading that division mainly because they have a better points percentage and more wins in regulation than the Florida Panthers do. So you've got Toronto leading the division right now. They would play the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round. Now, I would love to see Columbus make the playoffs again. I would love to see them get back in I've said it throughout most of the year, just mainly because of what happened with the Gaudreau brothers. It'd be great to see Columbus get back in the playoffs. So they would play Toronto in the first round. And then the Atlantic Division, the second and third seed, pump this series into my veins. The Battle of Florida again. With the way that those 2 teams the last couple of days have loaded up on talent to get their teams ready for the playoffs. Oh, sorry, a little coughing fit that decided to come out of nowhere. But let this matchup, let me have this in the first round. Oh, that would be fantastic. Will that happen in the first? It could very well happen in the first round again. Florida and Tampa. Oh yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So that's the matchup in the current wild card setup. Let's go to the 1 versus 8 matchup. It is still the same matchup here as it is over here. You have Washington playing the New York Rangers. So that's the same. You also still have the same matchup here as you have Toronto playing Columbus. Now here's where you get some different matchups. The 3 versus 6 matchup, you have the Florida Panthers playing the New Jersey Devils. That's the 3-6. And then you have the Carolina Hurricanes playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 4-5 matchup. Now Carolina, they would have the number 4 seed, because again, they have now, even though Carolina has a 613 points percentage, Tampa has a 623, but they go by regulation wins, I believe. Oh, hang on here. Okay, I'm sorry. So that would be flipped around. This would be flipped. The 4-5 matchup, it would still be Carolina and Tampa, but Tampa would be the 4 seed and Carolina would be the 5 seed. So I did have that flipped around. So you have different matchups. You have different matchups here. Instead of Dallas playing Minnesota in the 1 versus 8 matchup, it would be Dallas playing Colorado. You would have Vegas playing Los Angeles and Minnesota playing Edmonton. So you would have 3 different matchups in the West if it were the 1 versus 8 matchup compared to the current setup. Over in the East, you would have 2 different matchups. So you would have 5 different matchups if it was the 1 versus 8 setup. So it would kind of be interesting to see a Florida versus New Jersey matchup. That would be interesting. Now, and a Tampa Bay Carolina matchup could be fun too. It's just the main reason why they won't go back to the 1 versus 8 setup is because the way the 1 versus 8 setup is, and people have been screaming this, that the NBA needs to do this, which I was kind of surprised the NBA had never done this, but they don't. The 1 versus 8, when you do the 1 versus 8, at least in the NHL, when you did that, you reseeded. So it was always the highest remaining seed playing the lowest remaining seed. So you never knew who you were going to get in that second round. So when TV companies want to advertise matchups, this is why they want the divisional setup, because then you know, okay, this team is going to play either this team or this team. You don't know that with the 1 versus 8 setup. Because over here, let's say Winnipeg beats Calgary in the current matchup or the current setup. You know Winnipeg would then play either Dallas or Minnesota. You know that would happen. The same with the Pacific Division. You know the winner of Vegas and Colorado would play the winner of Edmonton, Los Angeles. You wouldn't know that in the 1 versus 8 setup because it's highest remaining seed versus the lowest remaining seed. So if you had, say, let's just say LA shocks everybody and knocks out Vegas in the first round. Well, that's the number 7 seed. Now, who are they going to play? They're going to play whoever is the highest remaining seed. There's 3 different teams you could play there. You could play either, there's a good chance you could play either Winnipeg, you could play Dallas, or Minnesota. Who are you advertising? The TV companies don't know who they would advertise. You can advertise a Winnipeg versus Dallas or Minnesota matchup because, again, you know who you're playing in the second round. You won't know that in the 1 versus 8 setup because whatever highest remaining seed is left plays the lowest remaining seed. There's 3 different teams you could end up having there. And it's interesting because so many people go and say, well, the 1 versus 8 setup is so much easier. You won't get the big upsets. Are we sure? Because I remember in 2012, a Los Angeles Kings team that came into the playoffs as a number 8 seed. And what did they do? Oh, yeah, that's right. They steamrolled everybody en route to their first Stanley Cup championship. So the idea of we need to go back to 1 versus 8 because we don't want to see these really good teams, lose in the first round. We're tired of seeing a 1 seed or a 2 seed lose in the first round. You're going to see that no matter what. Even in the old setup, the old divisional setup, when you had the top 4 teams in each division playing each other. 1993, the 4 remaining teams left in the conference finals that year were all 3 seeds in their division. So to say that you're not going to see upsets in the 1 versus 8 matchup like you would it's bonkers to me. It is insane. It's just insane to me that people go and still say, well, you won't have the upsets in the 1 versus 8 matchup. Yes, you will. You will definitely have upsets in the 1 versus 8. You have upsets almost every single year. And I mean, could you put, because I'm telling you, 1 versus 8, I can see this upset happening all day long. Because it happened last year. Those two teams played each other last year, and the New York Rangers absolutely destroyed the Washington Capitals in the first round. Just swept them aside like it was nothing. None of those games. That series was a foregone conclusion after the first game. So you get the New York Rangers, that a number 8 seed that could advance. So they're either. So there's three teams that can play here. Who are you advertising? You don't know. Rangers win here. You know who they're playing. They're playing one of them. They're playing either Carolina or New Jersey. It's easier to advertise. In the current setup, it's easier to advertise. And again, the whole idea of, well, you're not going to see these teams with these really great records get knocked off in the first round. Because I remember hearing about people complaining about that when Tampa lost in 2019. I heard people complain about it when Boston lost in 2023. 62-win team and a 65-win team. They both lost in the first round. And people are like, that's why we need the 1 versus 8 setup. It still wouldn't have mattered. Because even in the 1 versus 8 setup, those were the same matchups. It's crazy to think that was, that people would say, well, it would create a different matchup. Not really. It's insane to think that. In this one, you're going to get a few different matchups, but again, you're still going to get upsets. Because right now, with Columbus playing the way they're, you really think Toronto can beat Columbus? Toronto, with their history? I don't know. Now, like I said, this is all going to change many, many times between now and the end of the season. But as of March 5th, I just kind of wanted to take a look at this and show that, there's going to be there would be some different matchups this particular year. We'll probably revisit this at the end of the year when we know what the matchups are, and we can take a look then at. We'll have the guaranteed matchups for the current wildcard setup, and then we can actually go back then and look. Okay, now what would they be in the 1 versus 8 setup? So we'll probably be revisiting this later on as we get down toward the season, when the season ends. But as of March 5th, here's what the matchups would be, and let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know your opinions. And I personally like the current setup. I think it's cool. I didn't mind the 1 versus 8 setup though either. And if the NHL went back to the 1 versus 8 setup, I wouldn't be heartbroken. But what do you guys want? You guys like the current setup, or would you rather have the 1 versus 8 format? And just don't say, well, 1 versus 8, we're not going to get the upsets. Yes, you will. Trust me on that. Let me know what your guys' opinions in the comment section. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Share the video with everyone that you know. I'll share the video with everyone that you don't know. And if you have friends, family who love hockey talk, love hockey jerseys, everything, let them know about the channel. I would love to have every hockey fan in the world. I would love to have you here on the channel with me. And so we'll look forward to seeing how, because I'm pretty sure some of these matchups will probably change later tonight. So again, let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe. Share the video. I will see you guys later.